Welcome to Investomania, brother.
Apple has been a fantastic long-term winner, and it's one of my favorite stocks still to this day. If you are looking for something that is conservative and reliable, but still has a little bit of oomph to it, still a little bit of growth. Obviously, it's not the growth stock it once was, but when you compare how safe the stock is to the still growth potential, I really like it. But this last quarter, ouch. The stock was hammered down roughly 7%. That's a pretty big one-day drop for the largest and most profitable company in the entire world. So, this must have been some hideous quarter, right? Everything must have been bad, right? Wrong. There was a lot to like in this quarter. There was more to like than dislike, but there were some interesting things which occurred, like management's decision to stop releasing unit numbers for how many iPhones were sold. This is what I felt was the largest contention in this quarter and what caused the most concern. Naturally, this is going to cause a lot of investors to just automatically guess as to whether management made that decision because unit sales were not up to expectations and they anticipate poorer than expected unit sales going forward, or if this was just management deciding that they didn't feel like breaking out the numbers for some other reason. Now, most investors are probably going to feel the former in that something wasn't right, and that's why they stopped releasing these numbers they've been releasing for years. We're going to stop now because something went wrong, right? I don't know. I can see both sides. If unit sales were strong and internal forecasts were projecting strong future unit growth, I would think they'd probably go ahead and keep breaking out that number for us. This would lead us to think the inverse would be true. If things weren't looking good, well, then maybe they'd go ahead and stop breaking out those numbers. On the flip side, Apple is a $1 trillion company, and it is in one of the fiercest markets in the world, smartphones. And in the process of giving out voluntarily that information, they do not have to break out that number. Obviously, they stopped doing it, right? They don't have to give that out. They're voluntarily doing that. And for a company that large to voluntarily give out any information, they have to be really careful. That cannot be used against them in any way, shape, or form. Because in the process of handing out those unit numbers to their investors and potential investors, they are also handing out those unit numbers to all their competitors, to all the governments across the world. Those numbers could potentially somehow be used against them in a lawsuit. Now, while I personally don't care to sit around and hypothesize why it would be so bad to give out those numbers, because I'm pretty darn sure if you were to take a group of top-tier executives as well as top-tier lawyers and sit around and guess at, hey, how are some ways this could potentially be used against us? I am pretty darn sure that the top-tier executives and especially the lawyers could come up with a plethora of reasons on why it would potentially be unwise in various situations to voluntarily release this information publicly. Another potential reason management might be wanting to change this isn't so much for a disadvantage. It's not, because we don't want the competition to have it, or maybe it could somehow be used against us in some sort of a class action lawsuit or something. It could just be that maybe management wants to change the focus of investors. Unit sales have always been a focal point for investors, meaning iPhone unit sales. And management may feel investors give unit sales too much weighting in their opinions and investment decisions. By taking away the ability to accurately track unit sales, it forces investors to look elsewhere to make their decision. Now, in the short term, this could certainly hurt the stock as it did, but long term, it may benefit the stock. So what's something else that perhaps Apple might want you to focus on? Okay, how about their service revenue stream, now at $9.9 billion? That's a strong 17% increase from 1 year ago. Additionally, while iPhone unit sales are no longer available to the public, the average selling price per unit is still publicly available. And Apple absolutely killed it this quarter with a massive 28% increase in the average iPhone unit selling price. Damn. The average iPhone price has jumped from $618 to $793. So maybe unit sales could have been a tad lighter than expected. Maybe they weren't. Either way, perhaps management just want investors to start focusing on other things like the service stream and pricing power. And it is possible that unit sales are doing just fine and they are expected to keep doing just fine, but management felt that long term, the stock would perform better if investors didn't have unit sales information and were then forced to focus on other areas of the company with even stronger growth. And maybe the investors would come to the conclusion, hey, Apple's actually a better deal than I thought it was. Of course, they're not thinking this like it's not the same time. Right now, they're concerned, but a couple years down the line, they might be thinking more positive thoughts because they're looking at stronger numbers. Listen, guys, I do not know the answer here. The only people who do know the answer are the people who made the decision for why they did this. The point I am trying to get across is while the initial thought for the average investor will be, iPhone sales must have been much weaker than expected. Why else would they remove the number? That is not the only possible reason, and we shouldn't necessarily jump to that conclusion without considering the other possibilities. I would stay clear of this stock for the next few trading days while investors who are concerned about this sell off their shares. But then I'd say if you're interested in Apple, I think this is a great time to get a nice discount and buy one of the highest quality companies in the world. And do not forget about Apple, their buyback program. They have the largest buyback program in the world, buying back $43.5 billion of their stock in just the first half of 2018. So it's very likely that when you buy in a few days, Apple will be right by your side buying with you. I say Apple is a buy.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.